Hey everybody, welcome back to our final session of RPM. I hope you've gotten much out of this study and you're feeling more passionate, more equipped than ever to go out, reach people for the cause of Jesus Christ. For our final meeting together today, we're going to talk about intentionality, which really boils down to stewarding our time and attention to serve people well and make such a lasting impact with our lives. We have this opportunity to live our one life to make other lives better. That's really going to make our lives count. We want our lives to count. Pouring our lives into others, pouring our life out for others. That's exactly what Jesus did. And we see that in our theme verse throughout this series. Acts chapter 10, verse 38 says this, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power, and how he went around doing good and healing all who were under the power of the devil, because God was with him. Jesus, the Son of God, filled with the Spirit, could have done anything with his time on earth. And he spent his life and his power, his gifting, doing good to people, bringing healing to everyone. God was with him. God's with us. And he's given us power, gifting, and time to use to do good and to bring healing to people. And when you and I are intentional with these things he's given us, we can lift up other people. We can help them be healed. We can help them find Jesus. That's what we're going to do. That's what it's all about. So the key to us to fulfill the call is intentionality. There's nobody I would rather talk about this topic of being able to reach people intentionally than Pastor Bishop, my friend, Timberlake. He and his wife, Jen, they are lead pastors of Celebration Church in Jacksonville, and then also Creekmore, North Carolina, my home state. Tim is an author. He reaches people, one of the greatest communicators on the planet. God is using him in an incredible way in a lot of different worlds and a lot of different kind of spheres of influence, whether it's entertainment or it's athletics and athletes, it's the church. And so, Tim, we're so excited to have you with us on RPM to be able to talk a little bit about how to reach people in an intentional way. Thanks a lot for joining us, Tim.
Pastor Dino, I'm super honored and humbled. And, we're not supposed to have favorites, but I have a favorite, and it's you. And I'm so honored and privileged that you would have me on RPM today to help some people with intentionality and just have a conversation like we do off the record. I'm glad we got an opportunity to capture it on camera for so many today.
That is true. We talk a lot about that. I mean, you're in a church that reaches people. You've done that throughout your life in the different, North Carolina, you spent some time up in Detroit. You've traveled. You built a great church. You built a great following. Even social media, you've used that. Very intentional. You're very intentional with your social media to reach people. It's always about the cause of Christ, but you've done a good job of building a bridge. I think that's one of the reasons why you wrote the book, which I love, the power of, 1440 or 1440 or however you say it. Tell me a little bit about the book and how you do want to make the most of every moment and every minute.
Yeah, I think when we typically think of a day, we think of it in the terms of 24 hours.
Right.
And when we think of it in terms of 24 hours, we think we have an endless amount of time throughout the day. But when you boil it down to the minutes, 1,440 minutes, that's all we got every single day. That's all that we are allowed to really operate off of. And if we're looking at it from the terms of an account, we have 1,440 minutes deposited that we can withdraw from every single day. And so the way that we go about our day has to be looked at from the perspective of being intentional, because if we're not intentional, we waste minutes, and those minutes turn into moments, and those moments turn into regrets. And so, for me, I try to steward the time that God gives us to the best of my ability and really make the most out of it, because you never know how a moment can change the trajectory of your life.
And that's so good, because you learn in the book tools and practical ways to steward your day. Because really what I love about this is the outcome and the goal of that is to live a great life, to be a blessing to your family, it's to build a local church, it's to build the kingdom, it's to impact eternity, but it's to reach people and make a difference. That's one of the goals of stewarding your day. So talk a little bit about that goal of when you steward your day, it impacts others.
Yeah, I think the sole purpose that we're here at the end of our life, we'll be known for one of two things, either the problems that we solve or the problems that we create. And my prayer is to just add value to people's lives and be a hope architect, to help people build hope, to help people understand that they can make a difference, and a significant difference when they are intentional with their time. And so for me, the goal and the heart behind my day is to spend my life and my time pouring it into the lives of others, because I'm a firm believer when we allow our lives to be poured into the lives of others, our lives get fuller because of it. And so one of my favorite scriptures is the world of the generous gets bigger and bigger, and the world of the smaller and smaller. And so I desire that my world would get bigger. And so I made it my life's priority and really intention to pour my life into as many people as I possibly can.
And you could do that, man. You could do that when you're part of a small group and you care for the person down the street. You can do that when you notice someone who's hurting. You find out about somebody going through trauma. You find out about someone who maybe lost their job. Or you could do it as an event at the church where you do a big serve day, or you're doing a time where you're reaching out to the community, in your family, in the workplace, to the next generation. We're talking about all those things of just reaching people all around you. You know, I love that, that with our theme scripture is how Jesus went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed, and God was with him. You know, we're living in a time that's very oppressed. I mean, we've seen a lot take place the last couple of years. The pain, the COVID, the uncertainty, the fear, the racism, the trauma, the addiction, all these things that are going on. What have you learned, and how do you reach people that are going through things like the world right now?
I think all of us are attached through pain. And I think that pain brings us to the place of empathy. I think pain brings us to the place of sympathy, and it brings us to a place where we have an understanding that all of humanity is going through something. I think if 2020 and the beginning of 2021 has taught us anything, it's that all of us are going through pain, some type, some way, some area of our life, whether it's from the economic crisis or COVID-19 or the racial tension or, our kids just being in our homes all the time in various seasons over the last year and a half. We all have experienced pain. And so the way that we go about our life and navigating pain and healing from the pain, that's up to us. And so we may not be able to determine how we get wounded or how we get hurt, but we can determine how we heal. And I believe one of the quickest ways to heal is to help someone else when they are wounded to understand that they're not alone, that they're not by themselves. They have brothers and sisters that are waiting and willing to lock arms with them, to walk with them through the process of healing. That's where we find healing ourselves.
That's so good, T. Man, I love listening to you talk. And again, you're one of the greatest preachers on the planet. There's not many times I preach that I don't ask you for advice. And you have a mom who's a great preacher. Your dad passed away when you were 18 years old. And that inspired a lot of this idea about make the most of every minute and to be intentional. So you've had pain. How do you minister to someone who's in trauma? Man, I want to reach people, but man, they've lost a loved one. When you get down into the nitty gritty, what are the things I need to know about to reach someone who's in trauma or brokenness?
Yeah, I think the human nature side of us, when we encounter, have a conversation with someone that is in trauma, we try to compare our trauma to theirs to navigate that conversation. And I think one of the greatest things that we can do while we are walking with someone in trauma is just to listen and just to be a presence. There's something supernatural, there's something powerful about the power of presence. And so I remember growing up, Pastor Dino, my mom would be telling me, hey, you need to go clean up your room. You need to do all these different things. And she would be saying all these different things over and over again, and it wouldn't move me. And my dad could literally stand in the doorway, and I would see him, and I would begin to do what it was that she had been telling me to do. but it was something powerful about his presence. There was an authority. There was a perspective that he had. I understood and knew that because he was there, if I did not carry out what I was supposed to do, something would happen. And I think for us to understand, we carry the presence, we carry the person, we carry the power of Jesus Christ on the inside of us. And so when we are listening to someone with trauma, the presence that we carry with us is powerful. It's supernatural. It touches them to know that someone is there for them, someone is there to listen to them, and someone is there to hear and give godly sound wisdom. Not necessarily our opinion, but godly sound wisdom when the Holy Spirit prompts us to. And I think that is so healing. It's like a healing balm that starts to rub over the wound and the sore and the cut of those that have experienced the trauma that they may be going through. And so one of the things that I try to practice in my own personal life is never talk from a wound, always talk from a scar. And so if it's a wound, it's still too fresh. It's still too painful. I'm talking out of emotion. I'm talking out of my will, out of my wants. But if I talk from a scar, I can always point the person going through trauma back to what Jesus has done, back to how he brought me through, back to how he brought me over, back to how I got through with the help of him, whatever it was that I was experiencing as a trauma.
You always drop it in one-liners that's going to go help me, man. I'm going to take that one now. It's going to help me live my life and do those things. But I mean, that is super important. So, you think about it. I mean, you listen, you're there, you give good sound wisdom. Because I think sometimes we don't think that Jesus was a good listener.
Right.
And what we do then is, so when we do a serve day, we go out and do the project. It's all about the project. Let's get the wheelchair ramp built. Let's go to the nursing home. Let's wash the cars. Let's go bring groceries. And we can make our serve and our care and our love and our reach an event, a project. Hey, this week our small group's getting together. We're gonna go do this. Hey, me and my husband are gonna go bring a meal. Hey, we're gonna connect with our local, food bank, or we're gonna go down there and partner with maybe a treatment center. And we can see it as either we're on the clock or it's and it's about people. It's about listening and connecting with people. You do that so well. You do that in a community like North Carolina, you do it in Jacksonville. You've done a good job of doing that with the culture that we live in right now. Kind of some real people that are making a difference in culture. You've been able to cross over and bring Christianity to somewhat a toxic culture. How have you been able to do that?
For me, it goes back to something you just said. It's about the people. And I think oftentimes when we miss it is when what we desire to give is more important than the person we desire to give it to. So the best way for me to compare it would be, around Christmas time, we make our plans to give our gifts to our family and our spouses and to our kids. And sometimes if we're not careful, we make it more about the gift that we're giving versus the person that's receiving it. And I think in life, when we are carrying hope and when we're carrying this message of Jesus Christ, particularly on instances where we have an opportunity to help people on Serve Day, and we have an opportunity to really be with people through some of the most difficult moments of their life, if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves helping and wanting to help to make us feel better, because that's what we have to give, instead of making sure that we are impacting the person that's receiving what it is that we're giving to the best of our ability. And so for me, no matter what sphere of life, no matter who I'm talking to, whether it's an athlete, whether it's an entertainer, whether it's a rapper, whether it's, a regular congregant that comes to the church, my mentality is, for them, I want you to walk away from this conversation better. And I have no motive, I have no agenda from this conversation. And so I think if that's our mentality, if that's what drives us, it puts us into a healthy place. It gives us a healthy perspective. And when our perspective is healthy, then our reality begins to take shape and form because we're seeing right. I'm a firm believer, if we can see right, we can live right. And so that's how I try to approach everything I do, as far as helping people, giving people, being generous, and having conversations that are needed for people that may be going through some of the toughest times of their life.
Yeah, that's so good. Celebration Church has always been a church that has engaged their community. Man, y'all have done the serve weeks. You're there for people. You have people come in on a Sunday. I've been there before when people come in a Sunday and they're fighting addiction. They're about to be homeless. Their marriage is falling apart. A blended family is fragmenting. Man, young people going through stuff. And I've seen on site, let's go get them a hotel room. Let's get them some food. Let's go the second mile. Pastor Stovall, Carrie, your whole team there, always gone the second mile. And I know how intentional you are and how loving you are. Give me a little bit on, man, here's how we can go the second mile. Here's how we can reach people with what they're, here are practical ways. How's it happening right now at Celebration?
Yeah, for what it is that I believe God has called us to do, it really doesn't matter the revelation that we have of the gospel of Jesus Christ if we're not willing to show it and share it through love and in practical ways. We've been in some situations and circumstances together where we're sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ to a person that's hungry. They can't hear anything because they're hungry. And so taking out time to identify the problem before we try to share the revelation. And so once we can identify the problem, then we can provide a solution, which opens up a door to share what it is that God has placed on our heart that we know will bring transformation. And so I think one of the areas that we've missed it as a church is sometimes we try to provide answers to questions that no one's asking. And so when people are going through pain, people are going through, heartache, trauma, different things that they may be going through, the best thing that we can do is find the problem, provide a solution, and then infuse transformation through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so Celebration Church has been doing a phenomenal job of that for years and years, way before I came here. And, my desire is to continue to do that and do it in the way that God has called us to do it and carry it out in some creative and really cool and interesting ways.
It's interesting because you and let's reach, man, we're missionaries, we're evangelists. Let's reach people. I know so many people that are watching this. They get up in the morning, they hear a message, they read a Devo, they listen to a podcast. They want to make a difference. They know that they have a short life. They want to make an eternal impact. Sometimes when you reach people, they don't respond. I've done outreach and I've loved on people that didn't turn around. And that doesn't make me quit. It doesn't make me want to stop. But sometimes you can get compassion fatigue. Sometimes it's like, man, nobody's life is changing. I'm giving, and there's been no transformation. And I know, how have you been so intentional in being able, even though people at times have said no, or everybody you help doesn't turn around? How have you continued to be intentional in sharing the message?
It's seasons like that are painful. They're frustrating. I mean, we have both walked through seasons like that. I remember calling you like, hey, these people ain't changing. They're crazy. They're driving me up the wall. And it gets to a point where if you forget why you're doing it, you make it about you, then you desire to see results when in fact God desires for you to just sow seed. And so for me, I have to understand that in this moment where I am serving, in this moment where I am being generous, in this moment where I am throwing my life at it, it may not be the moment that the harvest is produced, but it in fact may be the moment where I am sowing the seed for the next man or woman to come by and water it. And after them, for the next person to come after them and bring some sunshine. And so I am only a part of the process of the person's life that I am giving to, that I am serving, that I am throwing my life at. And if I don't understand that, then it becomes frustrating. It gets intimidating. You get serving fatigue when you make it more about you than you do about the person that you're serving. And one of the things that I just try to do, one of the practical things that I try to do is always go back to the place where God bought me from. Because if I can remember, where God brought me from and how many people crossed my path and how many people came across my life and how many people inspired me, encouraged me, and I still didn't change, then I have to give grace, lend grace, yield grace to the person that I may be serving, that I may not be seeing change in. And so all of us have something that we can remember that takes us back and that brings us to a place of humility, brings us to a place where we have to drop down on our knees and thank God for not giving up on us, because it inspires us and encourages us to continue to push forward in serving those that are in front of us.
God, that's good. I mean, that just, I'm thinking all kinds of ways to reach people, because what you're saying is don't give up on people.
That's it.
Don't give up. And that's, it's just huge. Don't give up on people. You said a word, generosity. And so if, there's a lot of different ways we reach. We could do organic, where during the day we see a need. We're at the dance studio with our daughter and we hear about a need. I'm at the ball field and I hear about a need. I get an email about someone going through something. There's organized ways. So we organize things with our church. We do a day, we do a week, we do a moment. Partnerships. Sometimes somebody has a heart to work with homeless, so they're going to go down to the shelter. They want to help kids learn how to read, so they're going to be a part of a literacy program. They want to help those that are coming out of being incarcerated, so they want to be in a reentry opportunity. But one of the whether it doesn't matter whether it's organized or it's organic or it's a small group or if it's one person focused, generosity is base camp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of the things that is so important right now is we live in a stingy world. We live in a world that's all about me. See me, look at me, watch me dance, watch me TikTok, watch me Instagram, watch me do this, watch me do that. See me post. Yep. But, at the end of the day, it is just out of a spirit. What you said, I've been brought from a place. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be generous. And in your book about being intentional, one of the greatest ways to be intentional is intentional with our generosity.
Absolutely.
Life, treasure, time. Talk a minute about how important that is in reaching people.
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception of generosity is to give something to someone. That's where it starts. But I think the greatest sign of generosity is not just allowing what you give to change someone else, but give in such a significant and intentional way that it changes you. And so you've been phenomenal at this. And I know the Timberlake that people see today would not even be possible without Pastor Dino, without your generosity, without you literally looking at me years ago and saying, hey, I not only want to give something to you, but I want to open my world to you. And I think that's how generosity sparks hope and changes lives and transforms lives, when it not only changes the person's life that you are giving to, but it sets them on a trajectory of hope and life transformation from that moment forward. Something they never forget, something that becomes a seed, something that becomes transformational, something that becomes contagious. And I believe that's what's so supernatural about generosity. It not only impacts the person that we are helping, serving, giving to, but it impacts generations to come. And so, I'm a firm believer that what we keep in our hand is our harvest, but what we sow turns into our seed. And so there's something that we all have that we can give, something that we all have. There's something that we all carry that we can sow that can be multiplied in the lives of so many people through generosity.
That's good. Yeah, because it could be the smallest thing.
Yep.
Man, it's a smile. It's a, man, good to see you. Hey, praying for you. Hey, let me pick that up for you. It's just those little things. You said something that was so true. And man, I have lived it. I remember my first trip to Honduras, man. I'm going to change Honduras. Me by myself. National revival, my first missions trip. Man, I went down there. I loaded some bricks. I carried some sand. We had a church service. I did a lot of sweat. But we just built one part of the wall. That's all we got done for those 4 days. But can I tell you something? Bishop Tim Timberlake, hey, it built a whole lot more in me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I have heard from people that went on an outreach, that engaged their community, that went and did something that seemed scary. Man, that went out on a serve day, went out on a moment where you had a little missionary, a little evangelism moment, a little soul winning moment. And at the end of 2 hours later, a day later, 3 days later, Wow, I got more out of it than I gave.
Right.
And that's
right.
exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. I remember Pastor Dino's story. My grandfather would tell me, and he didn't have much growing up, and he was a sharecropper, and he worked very hard for about $20 a month to feed 8 kids. They stayed in a one-room house, and he was very generous. And it wasn't about the amount that he would give away, but it was about the heart behind what he gave and why he gave it. And he said something to me that sticks with me until this day. I said, why would you be like that? And he said, well, what you don't have, you have to create. And I think that's the message of generosity. What we don't have, we can create it through giving what we have to someone else.
Wow.
And when we give it to someone else, God sees the heart behind it, and he brings someone else across our path to give to us what it is that we in fact need. And I think that's the supernatural thing behind generosity. And I believe that generosity really helps us to break the spirit and the mindset of greed. And it's not until we become generous that we really know who we are and the heart and the intent behind what we do.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, he was a sharecropper, but he was sowing a whole lot more seeds. Every act of kindness for the cause of Jesus is a seed. All the intentional decisions we make and the way we live our life that impact others is a seed. Hey, we got about one more minute. And Tim, I love hearing from you. And so I'm a person, I want to make a difference. I want to reach people. I want the 2021, I want 2022, 2023. I want all these years, all these days, all these seasons, all these moments, this month. I want to reach people. Help me reach people.
I think the first thing that we have to do, again, is find what the problem is. Because if we provide a solution for a non-existing problem, then we waste our time and we end up not impacting the people's lives that God has really placed in front of us and in our life to serve. And one of the greatest things about, Serve Day, and one of the greatest things that I know about you, Pastor Dino, is how on purpose you are about helping people solve the problems that they're actually dealing with. And so for those that may be watching this, you desire to make a difference, you desire to help people solve and provide solutions, pinpoint where the problem is. One of the greatest things about Jesus is he knew who he was talking to. When he was talking to farmers, he talked farming. When he was talking to tax collectors, he talked taxes. When he was talking to fishermen, he talked fish. And so you have to know your audience. You have to know the pain and the problem that they're going through. And that way you can accurately provide a solution and serve them and meet the need instead of wasting your time spinning your wheels in the mud.
Man, Pastor Tim Timberlake slinging the fire right there. That was incredible, because I think there's a small group, there's a couple, there's a college student group, there's somebody right now watching that, and they're gonna sit down after this moment and they're gonna pinpoint a problem, and they can make a difference. So Tim, thank you so much. We love you and Jen, love the church, love your family. Thanks so much for being a part of this series.
Love you, Pastor Dana. I'm so honored to be on the RPM series. It's a blessing.
Tim brought so many incredible thoughts and ideas to the table about how we could pour out our lives reaching people intentionally. And like you said, it really is the key to making the greatest difference in people's lives. I hope you got as much out of the conversation as I did. I know I'm ready to focus on the people I'm around and the people I get to serve, even more than whatever outreach project or serve opportunity I'm a part of. I want to focus on the people. I want to be intentional. At the end of the day, it's about Jesus. It's about people. I'm excited for you to dig into this last discussion time as a group today. We've got some great questions, and there are in your RPM book to unpack some topics together. Since this is the last time I'll be seeing you in the study, I just want to say thank you for joining with us in the movement to reach people. Thank you for answering the call to live like Jesus, serve others, share the good news of the gospel. And I'm so honored to serve alongside of you for the cause of Jesus Christ. And that's the cause that counts the most. God bless you, and thank you so much.